Hello and welcome to Hang with Willie, episode 6. I'm your host, Willie Mayette, and today we are going to be working on upper structure triads. All right, so what is an upper structure triad? Well, first of all, let's take a look at just a basic shell of a chord here. So basic dominant 7th chord. This is just your basic block chord, C7 chord, root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. Okay, so now when we're looking at that chord, we have to know, like, okay, the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. We got to know those notes of the chords, and then from there we want to start adding in tensions, right? Like things like flat 9, sharp 11, maybe the 7th or maybe the 13th. And a lot of times to have to think about those other tensions and add them in, it's a little bit more confusing. So it's a lot easier just to think in terms of another chord built on top of that C7 chord. So all an upper structure triad is, it is a triad, a 3-note chord, built on top of your original dominant 7th chord. So here's an upper structure triad. Here's your C7 chord, and then you have a D major triad in the right hand, okay? Now, typically what happens is when you're playing these upper structure triads, the left hand is going to take out like that 5th, maybe even the 3rd as well. You might even do just the root and 7th or the root 3rd and 7th. The exercises that I'm going to show you today, we're going to use the root 3rd and 7th. Okay, so, and in the right hand, I'm just playing that triad. And a lot of times that triad in the right hand is going to be in some type of an inversion. Usually not root position, but when I say usually not root position, I'm not saying that it's never in root position, okay? It's just that a lot of times we want to move outside of that root position because it helps us to get away from the tertial aspect of the chord, right? Tertial meaning built in thirds, all right? So like when we do something like this, you can see it's all thirds, thirds, thirds. Whereas something like this, you start to get fourths in there, right? And it gives you something a little bit of a different sound. All right. So anyway, there are 7 different types of upper structure triads that work over dominant 7th chords. Before I get into them, the question you might have is, well, do you have upper structure triads for minor chords or for major chords? Yes. You could do like a D major chord over a major 7th chord, and that gives you a major 7th with a sharp 11. On a minor chord, you could do like a D minor up here, and this gives you the 9, 11, and 6. All right? But when we're talking upper structure triads, a lot of times, in my mind at least, I'm thinking dominant 7th chords, okay? Because that's where you end up finding the most upper structure triads that you can use. One of those reasons is that on a dominant 7th chord, you could throw in almost any note, right? The only note that's a real avoid note is the major 7th. Even the sus4, you can kind of get away with throwing that in there from time to time as well, like doing that kind of stuff. Like, all right, so anyway, so let's take a look at the music here. So like I said, there are 7 different upper structure triads. I want to go through each of the 7 with you right now, and I also want to show you how you can start to apply them to a song, okay? All right, so the first one is a minor triad built on the flatted 2nd, okay? So the flatted 2nd would be D flat or C sharp, okay? So what I've done here is I put this in first inversion, okay? So I have my 3rd, and my flat 13, and my flat 9 in the chord, okay? So the whole chord here is a C7, flat 9, flat 13. So we have root 3, flatted 7th, 3rd, flatted 13th, and then my flatted 9th. Now again, can I do this? Absolutely, I could play root position, but I'm just showing you different inversions here, okay? So there's that first chord, C7, flat 9, flat 13. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. This next one is a C7, sharp 11, and this is a D major triad, okay? So a major triad built on the 2nd. This gives me 9, sharp 11, 13. I end up using this upper structure triad quite a bit, all right? This is a very popular one, all right? The next one is a major triad built on the flatted 3rd, okay? So now we can also do a minor triad built on the flatted 3rd as well, okay? I didn't put that in here, all right? So this one gives me what? It gives me my 5th, right? Actually, you know what? Let me do this. This is the way I'm playing right here. So I replaced the 7th down here, okay? So it gives me my root 3, 7, sharp 9, and 5. If I did a minor triad, it'd give me sharp 9, sharp 11. Okay? So there's that, or there's that. Okay? All right, so now moving on, 4 more here. A major triad built on the flatted 5th, okay, so flatted 5, G flat major triad. Okay, this is a popular one as well. This gives me flat 9, sharp 11, okay, so real nice sound there. The next one is a minor triad built on the flatted 5th, okay, so if I make that a minor, then that gives me my 13th there, okay, and then my sharp 11 and flat 9. And when I said that there's 7 of these, really you could say that there's 8, right? Because we could do that, the major and also the minor built on the flatted 3rd, okay? So anyway, this is another cool one right here, right? So flat 9, sharp 11, the difference here is whether you're going to play the 7th, double the 7th, or add in the 13th. Now, this next one is very popular. This is major triad built on the flatted 6th. And notice that you end up getting the top note here is the C. Okay, so this is an A flat major triad. Okay, so you get sharp 9, flat 13. Next one, which is also very popular, is a major triad built on the 6th. And this gives me my 3rd, 13th, and flat 9. Okay, so let's go through all of those again. So we have built on the flatted 2nd, minor triad built on the flatted 2nd, major triad built on the 2nd, major or minor triad built on the flatted 3rd. Okay, nothing is going to be built on the 3rd for, you know, because you get that B natural in there, and also nothing on the 4th because that's sus. Okay, this would be fine if you leave out the 3rd down here. You could use this as a sus4 chord voicing. Okay, built on the flatted 5th. Either a major or minor triad. We don't build anything on the 5th because of that B natural. We could say like, oh, we could do a minor, but at that point, we're only getting the 9th in there, so it's really not giving us much of a tension, all right? But, right, built on the flatted 6th, built on the major 6th. We don't do anything on the flatted 7th because, again, that's sus4 sound, but if you wanted to use it for a sus4 chord, that. And we're definitely not going to build anything on the major 7th because, well, we have the major 7th in there. Okay? So, flatted 2nd, minor triad on flatted 2nd, major triad on the 2nd, major or minor triad on the flatted 3rd, major or minor triad on the flatted 5th, major triad on the flatted 6th, major triad on the major 6th, okay, on the natural 6th. All right? So now that you have all of these triads that you can practice, how do you use them, right? Well, remember that you always voice a chord down from the melody, okay? Now, I have an example here of the Days of Wine and Roses, so, okay, so F major 7, down to E flat 7, to D7. Just playing chord shells down here, just root 7th, that's it for right now, okay? So, okay, so pretty simple. So now what I need to know is I can either do this one of a couple of ways. The first way is I can go into this, all of these triads here, and I could say, all right, so a minor triad built on the flatted, on this flatted 2nd, it works if the melody note is the flatted 2nd, if it's the 3rd, or if it's the flatted 13th. Okay, so any one of those notes. So basically, if I have a melody note of an E, well, then I can do that chord voicing. Or if I have a melody note of a C sharp or a D flat, I can do this chord voicing. Or of an A flat, I can do that chord voicing. It just would depend on what inversion of that chord I'm going to play. All right, take a look at the next one here. So this, again, would be flat 2, 3rd, or flatted 6th. The major triad built on the 2nd. This is 2, sharp 11, or 13. So if I have the 2nd, the sharp 11th, or the 13th in the melody, then I can use this one. So let's take a look at this example here. Now, we're really only going to use this on dominant chords for right now. And where it really works well is when the melody note kind of has a moment of pause. So I'm not going to do anything on these notes because they're kind of moving a little bit fast in here. So I'm just going to do... So. But I'm going to use this as an opportunity right here, this D7 chord, as an opportunity to do an upper structure triad. Now, I said that there were 2 ways. One way, like I said, is you can go through all of those 8 different chords, 7 different chords, and figure out what notes, the triads pick from the scale. Okay, so like again, triad built on the 2nd, you have the 2nd, the sharp 4, and the 6. Okay, so obviously this chord right here, this is what? D. So that is my what? It's the melody, and it's also the root of the chord. So I got to figure out what triad has the root of the chord in it. Now, one way in which I could do this is I could just build a triad down from this note, okay? So I could say, all right, well, I could build like what? Like a B flat major triad from here, right? I could also do like what? Maybe a B minor triad. Okay? But the B minor triad, this is a B minor triad built, a minor triad built on the 6th, right? And we really didn't have that, did we? So we have a major triad built on the 6th, but we really didn't do major triad built on the 6th right here, but we didn't really do a minor triad built on the 6th. Let's go back to C and we'll see why. A minor triad built on the 6th really doesn't give me much, does it? It gives me the 3rd, the 13th, and the root. These upper structure triads, we're trying to get more than just, a 9 or a 13. We're trying to get some alteration of those tensions, a sharp 9, a flat 13, a sharp 11. So, back to my D7, if I do a major triad built on the flatted 6th, what do I have here? Now I have a D7 with a sharp 9, a flat 13, and the root. Now what about this next one? This is the flatted 7th. What triad could I make here? Well, I could do a minor triad built on A, right? But again, it just gives me my 9 and 5th, nothing real special there. But what about a major triad built on the flatted 5th, on A flat, okay, or on sharp 11, however you want to look at it. That gives me flat 9, sharp 11, and then flat 7. So now check this out. I wrote this out for you. Let's move this up. So here on the F major, I'm just playing the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th, and then the melody note. And then I just, if you can hold that melody note down, great. And then I just go down to the E flat 7, root 7, 3, and 13. Check this out. So you see how I'm just playing root 3, 7 here in the left hand, and I do this upper structure triad. So this is the upper structure triad built on the flatted 6th, upper structure triad built on the flatted 5th. And if I want to, I could play this this left hand again here as well. All right, I could like play this again with those chords. So okay, so that upper structure triad gives me a really cool sound. And the reason that the upper structure triad is so useful is that I don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting in my brain and trying to think like, oh, what tensions am I going to put with this? I could just build the triad down from that note. Now let's say I want to do something like that, maybe right even on here. Build it on the E flat. Okay, so I'm on my 3rd. All right, well, what options do I have? I can maybe do a minor triad on C. It's okay. I could do. So you're going to notice that some of them are not going to work all that well. Now what you could do is go into these chords and figure out which each one of these are. All right. So again, like I said, let's take this one, the C7 with the flat 9 and the sharp 11. So flat 9, sharp 11, flat 7. Okay. Flat 9, sharp 11, 13. You'll notice that none of them here really have the 3rd in them, do they? Okay. There's this one, the minor triad built on the, where am I here? The minor triad right here. Okay. So minor triad built on the flatted second. So if I went right over here and I tried doing a minor triad built on the flatted second, you know, but sometimes the tension is going to be too much. But this is where you play around with it, you use your ears a bit, and you explore a little bit. Now, upper structure triads, you don't have to use them a lot. Like, you see how, like, in this line right here, all I had to do is just use it right here on that D7, and it sounds really good. In fact, a lot of times you're better off to not use them a lot. Just use them in specific areas. This, again, is just one of those techniques that you can use in your arranging, okay? Remember that arranging techniques, you never want to use one arranging technique over and over and over again in a song. You're really, an arrangement of a song is going to be a multitude of different techniques that you put together, right? And then it creates that arrangement, all right? So, in other words, so in here, you might, we might end up doing some kind of like, you know, do some kind of like diminished approach thing here, like, get away with that. Yeah, we could probably do something, do like some kind of diminished thing in here. So I'm just hitting diminished chords. I'm hitting diminished chords on these three notes right here. I'm building down, making a G diminished, A diminished, and then C diminished. So that's an interesting sound. Let's see, can I? Yeah, so I can do like a drop 2 voicing. So, there we go. There we go. So obviously you got to practice it and work it out, but you know, you get the idea that, so now there's, here I'm playing like this, like kind of open sounding chord voicing. Over here I was throwing in some diminished stuff. Over here I'm using my upper structure triads. So the idea is that I'm not using the same technique over and over again. All right, so anyway, what I want you to practice is, if you're a member of Piano with Willie, download this music and try working through these upper structure triads. Now, I am going to be doing a lesson on upper structure triads specifically that will be coming out in the next few weeks, but you could get started with it by downloading this music and starting to take a look at these upper structure triads and see how you can bring them into standards that you know, okay? So look for dominant 7th chords and look for a melody note that's going to hang on a dominant 7th chord, like a half note or a whole note, and then see if you can use these upper structure triads. All right, so anyway, that's it. I will see you next Thursday in next Thursday's Hangout. All right, take care.